All right, guys, all the parts came in for the budget handbrake install. So I'm gonna go over a little bit about what I bought, and then we'll go ahead and get all this put together. So to start with, we got the Hell Performance 72-inch braided steel brake line and the correct banjo bolts to fit our application. I went ahead and test fitted this line on the bike, and it looks like it's gonna be just about the perfect length, possibly a little bit too long, but it'll work. I've also got the Motul RBF600 brake fluid over here, and I picked this because it seems like it's got about the highest boiling point of any of the brake fluids out there, so it'll definitely help with getting any brake fade. And then over here we have the Brembo PS13 master cylinder. Now altogether, we're right on budget. This came in at about $202 with tax and shipping and everything, and that's including the $20 caliper off of eBay. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started assembling this at the back of the bike. I've already done some stuff off camera, as you can see. The bracket's already mounted up, and I've also made some aluminum spacers to go between the bracket and the caliper on these bolts. One other thing I encountered during the test fit was I found that these tabs on the back of the caliper were very close to hitting the spokes. So what I've done is just taken them to the belt sander and sanded it down a little bit, as you can see right there. There was only about 3/16 inch of clearance between them and the spokes, and now we're closer to about 1/4 inch, and I feel okay with that. One other thing I've done is went ahead and dumped all of the old fluid that was in this caliper out, just so we can start with some fresh, clean fluid. So the caliper is all mounted up now, and I've double checked all the clearances and the alignment of it, and everything looks good. So now we're going to go ahead and get the brake line installed and then figure out how I'm going to route it. So the brake line's already ran up to the front. Now we're ready to install our master cylinder. And as you can see, I've already taken everything off the bars to make room. The clutch lever's loose. I've also got our switch housing hanging down here. We'll need to relocate that somewhere else later. And because this reservoir is built into the master cylinder, I'm going to have to attach this in a temporary position with it upright. That way I can bleed the brake system. Then once the brakes are all bled and the system is full, I can move it down into the position I'm going to have it in. So I got the brake system bled and did some little tests and checked everything out, made sure there was no leaks. Everything seems good. So now I'm ready to go ahead and get the clutch lever mounted back in place and get this all in a comfortable position. So I got everything mounted up and ready to go. I noticed that I was actually only lacking about 1/8 of an inch clearance to mount the switches back in their normal position, so I just moved the grip over to make it fit. So after a couple of test rides, I found that I wasn't very happy with the position the brake lever was in. It felt too far down and too far apart from the clutch lever, but unfortunately there wasn't really any way I could fix that because the reservoir on the master cylinder was hitting on the clutch adjuster right here. So what I've come up with is I 3D printed a spacer to go in between the clutch and the bar right here and move the whole clutch assembly farther out. And what this did is it allowed a little bit of extra room between the adjuster and the reservoir so I could move the brake lever up. So some final thoughts on the install now that I've had a little bit more time to play with it. Overall, I'm happy with how everything turned out. In the end, everything worked out pretty much as I had hoped it would. If I was to do this all over again, I think that there are a couple of things that I would do differently. The main issue being the master cylinder. I don't know if I would necessarily suggest using this one, or if I was going to do this again, if I would pick this one again. The price of it makes it pretty attractive because it is cheap at only about $80, but having this reservoir built in just makes everything much more difficult. Also, if you were using the factory clutch lever, I'm pretty sure there's no way you'd ever get this to work comfortably. Having the aftermarket clutch helps, but like I said, I did have to make the spacer to just get everything to where I felt it was comfortable. If I didn't have the ability to 3D print that spacer, I would have had to bought one, and looking online, the only one I found was about $30. And it was also a little bit thinner than the one I made, so I'm not even sure it would have worked. The other thing being the caliper that I chose. To be honest, I don't know anything about handbrakes. This is the first one I've ever used, but it does feel very strong. It's very touchy compared to the foot brake. Now that may be a good thing. That may just be a matter of personal preference too. Maybe some people like it stronger, some people like a smoother brake, but to me it does feel very strong, and I feel like it's probably because this is a dual piston. You'd probably be okay with a single piston on this bike. I don't necessarily think that it's a bad choice, it's just something to keep in mind. Like I said, this is my first handbrake I've ever used, so to me it feels touchy, but if you've already been using handbrakes on other bikes and that's what you prefer, well then this was probably what you want to get. If you prefer like a softer brake, you might want to look into something different. But other than those two things, like I said, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I did save quite a bit of money doing it like this. Like I said, it was only about $200 for all this versus buying the kit for roughly $600. So the inconveniences of having to figure out mounting and things like that are just kind of part of it, I guess. So if you decide to take on a project like this, good luck. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me a comment and I'll try to get back with you.